This incredible story happened in Botswana, Africa. Valentin Gruner and his friend Mikkel Legarth were out in the savannah. They patrolled in their SUV, looking for any suspicious activity. Suddenly they heard a whimper coming from the tall grass. Curious, the men turned off the engine and lay flat on the ground to investigate the noise. At first they thought they were baby antelopes, which are common in this area. But in reality it was something completely different. Despite the dangers in the thick bush, the two men approached cautiously to get a better look. As they got closer, the true nature of the sound slowly revealed itself, contradicting their original expectations. Instead of baby antelopes, they discovered 3 lion cubs. The men were frightened, but not because of the lion cubs, but rather because of the danger that could come from a possible mother animal nearby. She would defend her young to the utmost. But Valentin sensed that something was wrong. Despite the danger, he moved even closer to the young animals. To his horror, 2 of the 3 lion cubs were lifeless. The surviving cub looked at Valentin with wide, frightened eyes, as if asking for help. Tears welled up in Valentin's eyes as he realized that these puppies had been left behind for unknown reasons. While Mikkel watched from a safe distance, Valentin approached the little lion. The cub curiously ran towards the human and looked at him with its dark eyes, almost as if it was asking for help. Valentin quickly gained the animal's trust, stroked it and took it in his arms. But the idea of bringing home a baby predator seemed insane. But leaving this defenseless cub to its inevitable death seemed even more unthinkable. Valentin turned to Mikkel and explained his intentions. After some initial hesitation, his friend reluctantly agreed. They then dug a small grave for the lifeless young animals and ensured a dignified farewell. In that sad moment, Valentin decided that he would do everything he could to ensure that the remaining cub would survive. But this project turned out to be anything but easy. Valentin named the little lioness Surga and brought her home. The lion cub was starving and weak. Valentin quickly got a can of sardines from the fridge and tried to get Surga to eat. But even though she hadn't eaten for so long, the cub didn't want to eat. It was a critical situation, because without food the animal would hardly survive a few more days. Valentin had to act quickly and immediately dialed the number of the local veterinarian. He was surprised by the call and at the same time asked Valentin to bring the lioness to him immediately. The animal needed to be examined urgently. Valentin then jumped into his SUV and drove the cub to the veterinary clinic. Dedicated employees were already waiting for them there and they were doing their best to solve the lion cub's health problems. But the little creature's life was literally in jeopardy. The babies were probably left without food for several days. The mother probably fell victim to poachers, who were not uncommon in this area, and one day did not return to her young. The poor creatures were now left to their own devices and defenseless against nature. The veterinary team worked tirelessly to ensure the cub's health stabilized. Thanks to their efforts, they managed to put the lioness out of danger. After 2 days in the care of the veterinarians, the lion cub was finally allowed to return home to Valentin. Once there, the lioness was initially suspicious of everything and everyone. Even the slightest noise frightened her. This made Valentin sad because he could only imagine what this little creature had been through. As the days went by, Surga's condition changed noticeably. The fragile appearance that characterized her when she first met Valentin gradually faded and she gained weight. As she grew, Valentin taught the little lioness some tricks and games. He later also taught her the skills she needed to survive in the wilderness, including the art of hunting. In Valentin, Surga found the family she had never experienced in the great outdoors. The bond between the two was indescribable and Valentin became an integral part of their lives. But it was clear that he couldn't keep the lioness forever. It grew quickly and became larger. which unsettled people in the neighborhood that he also had to return to his home in Germany for a few months and couldn't look after the lioness. That's why Valentin decided with a heavy heart to place the lioness in the nearby wildlife reserve. It was difficult to say goodbye and Valentin couldn't hold back his tears, but he knew it was best for the lioness. But what he didn't know was that he wasn't the only one heartbroken. Serga was also sad in her new home without her best friend. Park staff did their best to make her feel comfortable and cared for, but the predator didn't seem happy. The lioness seemed withdrawn and the joy of life that she once radiated seemed to have faded. A year passed and despite the long time in the park, the lioness' behavior hardly changed. She interacted little with her peers and still appeared depressed. The staff was at a loss. A short time later, Valentin received news of the sad lioness. He learned that his beloved Serga was having difficulty coping without his presence. Concerned for Serga's well-being, Valentin decided to visit the nature reserve as soon as possible. That same day he booked a plane to Africa and set off to see his beloved lioness. The excitement among the employees grew as they expected the encounter between Valentin and the fully grown lioness. The staff was worried because they didn't know how the lioness would react. Despite the certainty that Valentin had raised Serga, the fear was palpable. Would the lioness recognize the man to whom she owed her life? Some keepers tried to warn Valentin of the danger and asked him not to enter the lion enclosure. They told him that she was not the same lion he knew, but Valentin refused to believe them. He was convinced that his girlfriend had been misunderstood. She only behaved that way because she was in a different environment and didn't feel comfortable. As he approached Serga's enclosure, there was silence among those present. When the lioness recognized the man, she excitedly ran to the park fence. There she paced nervously. When Valentin finally opened the gate, the spectators held their breath. But what happened next contradicted all expectations. Instead of launching an aggressive attack, Serga jumped at Valentin. A scream went through the crowd as she warmly hugged him and began licking him joyfully. Despite the long time, she recognized the man immediately and was overjoyed. From that day on, Valentin visited Serga regularly and ensured that she felt comfortable and integrated into the park's community.